We know that despotic forms of government dismiss the significance and value of individual human lives. Today, we'll explore some implications of a government's dismissal of the right to life. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Prolife Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on the very real battle of ideas that have come up now regarding whether there even is a right to life. What is it? What does it mean? What did our founders mean? Should individual human lives be protected by the government? According to our founders, that's one of the principal reasons that government comes into existence, to ensure our rights. And our rights begin with our right to be alive. This battle is very real. It's a battle of ideas, and it's raging all around us. And it's a battle for your mind and the minds of your loved ones to get them to kind of go along with the culture change. And my friends, this battle is so real that unless you're prepared and willing to deal with this battle of ideas in your own mind and clearly understand what this fight is about, you're going to lose. I guarantee it. Because the television set, the popular media, most of what you hear as a cultural message from our culture is actually inclining itself against the right to life for the innocent. So in our program, we talk about that at length, and today it's a special program. We're going to talk about fighting for that legal right. We're going to be talking about the legal battles now, specifically a lawsuit which the California Prolife Council is now preparing to submit to federal court against California's Governor Gavin Newsom. This lawsuit is dealing specifically with a frontal assault that Gavin Newsom has made against the voting process in California. He's instituting a only vote by mail program in which it's going to be extremely difficult to monitor and regulate the integrity of the vote. What you might call bushel basket voting is becoming very regular in California. If you're not familiar with American history, the concept of bushel basket voting as opposed to the individual vote, bushel basket voting was a process that the Tammany Hall organization that controlled New York used. Now, many of you know that I'm an Irish immigrant. My folks came here from Ireland, but they came after World War II. They're recent. Back in the 1800s, many Irish immigrants came to New York, and the Tammany Hall organization established itself by collecting the ballots of these new immigrants. And by collecting these ballots en masse, they then could control those votes for their machine politics. This corrupt organization really was a cancer on American politics and actually really only began to die out later in the 1940s. So Tammany Hall existed for nearly 100 years by using bushel basket, groupthink politics, and not respecting the value and integrity of the individual vote. If you've been following our explanation of progressivism and how it's at war and variance with natural law views your rights as coming from God and given to you as an individual. That's why Americans value individual lives. In groupthink, individuals are not significant. It's the group that they're part of that's significant. This allows for government control and for abuse by only dealing with people as groups. The significance of individual lives is minimized. So what does that have to do with voting? Everything. Because the integrity of your vote is what allows our freedoms to continue. You mulling and considering important ideas. You mulling and considering and dwelling on which is the best candidate, who has the best ideas, who wants to put in place the best laws. That's the basis of our freedoms, your freedom to vote. But in California, it's not just Gavin Newsom's most recent dictate that we can only vote by mail, and therefore opening the door for bushel basket voting. He is going to flood the state with a tsunami of blank ballots. But worse, California has been enduring attacks on the electoral and voting rights process for many years now. The media has not focused on those. When we come back, I'm going to explain to you aspects of California voting law that you probably don't know. You don't realize your vote is already being stolen by the Democrat machine. And by machine, I mean these are ideological folks that are committed to controlling government. They view government as a messianic answer, and therefore they are insistent on controlling it and making sure that their policy go into place, and control is the purpose of government. Whereas under natural law and the principles of a republic, the purpose of government is to protect the lives of the governed, not merely to have control over the governed. When we come back, we'll explain what's been happening, what the governor has now done, and why we must go into court to ensure the integrity of your individual vote.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Prolife Council, the state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee. To find out more on how you can help and be involved right where you are, go to californiaprolife.org. That's californiaprolife.org. We'll tell you how you can get involved in your local community, how you can be effective if you want to be a pro-life speaker. We have training programs and open doors of opportunity for you to speak on a life issue. If you'd like to donate your car or a boat, you can do that at californiaprolife.org. Car Easy makes it easy, and you find that on our website. We get the most of any donation program. Car Easy allows us to get the most out of your car. Maybe you're not getting the trade-in value you wanted. Maybe it's just not running the way it used to. Let your car be used for life. Go to californiaprolife.org and find out what you can do to make a difference. californiaprolife.org.
Be sure to subscribe to the Life Matters podcast with Brian Johnston. Go to lifematters.life to subscribe. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back to Life Matters. This is an important program. We're talking about California Prolife Council suing in federal court the new dictate from Governor Newsom that all votes be cast by mail only. And what that requires is that everyone in the state with a driver's license is going to be sent a ballot in the mail. This tsunami of blank votes will blanket the state, and it will give license to what we might call bushel basket voting. Bushel basket voting is the collection of whole sheaves of vote, so that at the voter registrar's office on election day, an individual can walk in with 50, 100, 200 ballots, and we have no idea where he or she got those ballots. The idea of individual responsibility is becoming impossible to monitor. You probably are aware that there have been sweeping changes over the last decade in California, led by the Democrat Party, which believes in groups. They are culture warriors that use animosity and group resentment to motivate voting. They pit groups against one another in order to agitate those groups. This is part of progressivism. And in so doing, they try to get voters to vote by groups. Recently, you heard former Vice President Biden instruct black people that if they don't vote for him, then they're not black. This worldview of group voting and the obligation to change government on the basis of groups, not on the value of individuals, is extremely dangerous. And it has crept into our worldview as a nation, and particularly in California. California historically respected the right to vote of individuals, and at one time required showing an ID. We no longer do that. In fact, you may not be aware, but in California, you don't have to show an ID, nor do you need to be registered to vote. That's right. In California, we have what's known as same-day voting, where an individual can show up and simply assert that they live in the district and give an address. They need not show an ID. It can be requested, but it's not required in the law. That vote is cast. It then is put in what's known as the provisional votes, votes that are going to be counted if the race is close. And my friends, that's where races are stolen, when they're close. And that's why the abuse, you've heard about it in Chicago, how the dead vote early and they vote often, how the abuse of the voting system is actually out to rob you of your vote. You see, for every false vote that's put forward that is not legitimate, it vitiates a valid vote. Your vote. It is not representative. This is not true democracy. This is the abuse by those who have the power to use those machines of government to get their way. Now, it may seem ominous to you, but it's true. And what Lenin said when he took over Russia, they had voting. And he said something you need to remember. It doesn't matter who votes, said Lenin. What matters is who counts the votes. And unfortunately, by adopting a bushel basket voting system, it will be impossible to monitor the veracity of each and every vote. You probably know that now in California, the Democrat Party has pushed for people who are illegally here, people who are not actually here appropriately. They have not followed the law. And in certain counties like San Francisco and others, they're given all the benefits of citizenship. Some get more benefits than citizens do. But more to the point, in Mexico itself, if you cast a ballot in Mexico, you have to show a photo ID, plus you must sign a verification using that photo ID, plus you must give your fingerprint. Now, what's amazing is people from Mexico, and again, I think Mexican people are wonderful, but it's the form of government that's at stake. And they have a corrupt form of government, and even those in power are trying to protect what little they have left because cartels will stuff the ballot boxes there. But here in the United States, you don't need to show an ID. You don't need to be a citizen. It is stunning how our voter registration laws have changed. Perhaps you don't know this. In California, 16-year-olds are sent ballots in the name of practice voting. Every driver in California is sent a ballot. And it's very difficult with this superfluity of ballots to determine, is this from a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old? And the system for monitoring this practice voting system, what they call pre-registration of 16-year-olds, the practice is very shadowy. As I said, you don't even have to live in California. You just have to say you live in California and make that statement, and they'll give you a ballot. Those ballots are then counted in close races. Something else in California you may not be aware of, it is against federal election law, but it's not against state election law, and that is giving people goodies for getting them to vote, emoluments. I witnessed a special election for a California Senate seat where the Carpenters Union made a special mailing and told and did a deal with Winchell's Donuts that every union member that presented their voter tag, I voted, they got a free dozen donuts. Now, this is an inducement to vote, and because it was from the union and only union members got that inducement, it was clearly an inducement to vote for the union-endorsed candidates. This is illegal in federal elections, but it's quite legal here. I am told, and some folks you can go online, but I have been told that it's not uncommon for homeless people to be approached and offered a hamburger to go down and vote. And it's impossible to prove that in person. All they need to do is give a street address. Maybe it's a hotel. They just need to give a street address, and then they're given a provisional ballot. That ballot is counted in the event of a close race. And so these are incredible attacks on your right and the integrity of your vote. And unless you're aware of this, you're not going to see the need to stop it. But you need to stop it unless you're willing to become a Tammany Hall type democracy, which is inherently corrupt, and it just keeps people in power who long for power. As I said, if you've listened before on Life Matters, we've talked about the difference between a progressive view of government, which says the role of government is to be all-powerful and bring about moral change, that government itself has a spiritual quality that will make everything right. That's an ideology of progressivism, and go back and listen to Life Matters, where we talk about Hegel. Episodes 2, 16, 17, and 18 go in depth in terms of the progressive worldview. Our founders, however, had an entirely different view of government. They viewed government as having a responsibility for individuals. And the individual life was something that God has given each of us, and the government has a duty to protect and to ensure the rights of each individual. These are very opposite worldviews. Voter harvesting, bushel basket voting, Tammany Hall voting, vote by mail only is a wide open invitation for the Democrat Party use of invalid votes. And being able to register and monitor the integrity of those votes will be impossible if Governor Newsom's ideas move forward. Now, we are joining with Congressman Darrell Issa and Judicial Watch, who have also filed suit on this very same topic. The points of law which are being brought forward by our attorneys are slightly different. So it's important that the full-orbed aspect of voter integrity for individuals be argued in federal court, because that will be lost if we have bushel basket tsunami balloting, which is what Governor Newsom has pushed us towards. Now, you may ask, why would he do this? Well, you probably know that Governor Newsom does not value the principles of natural law and the value of individual lives. In fact, Governor Newsom values the lives of animals more highly than vulnerable human babies. Governor Newsom proudly stated that California is now a kill-free zone. He, of course, was referring to animals, and animals kept in animal shelters will not be euthanized. He doesn't care if an 8-month-old baby is killed. An 8-month-old baby that has nothing wrong with it, and there's no medical problem with the mom, the state of California will pay for killing healthy babies in healthy mothers. And should that child be born alive, the abortionist can simply throw the baby out without repercussion. This is an alarming turn of events and shows that there's a different worldview to our governor's progressivism. It's a different view of the law. Again, if we don't value the individual human life that's governed, then we cannot have just laws. See, for this reason, governments are instituted among men, is what America's founders said. And progressives have left that premise that values individual lives. When it comes to voting, they want to control the ballot box. And the reason is they will not brook any opposition. They don't want a debate. They don't want the merits of their ideology examined. They simply want to enforce their ideology. You're going to hear now from Governor Newsom and what his view of the Republican Party is. And his goal is simply to destroy and remove opposition. And as you can now see, he wants to do that by controlling the ballot box itself. So listen carefully to this news story from The Hill, an audio magazine that covers politics. Governor Newsom is implying that Republicans themselves are of the past and will be destroyed as a party. What he neglects to tell you is for the last 15 years, the Democrat Party has controlled the ballot box using strong-arm tactics, and the supermajority they control in the legislature, not to allow public debate and the civic process to move forward. They have used raw legislative power to silence their opposition, to prevent any opposition from happening, and they have a compliant media which does the same.
California Governor Gavin Newsom, in an interview published Monday, said the Republican Party is headed for the, quote, wastebin of history. In an interview with Politico, Newsom compared national Republicans to the GOP in California in the 1990s. California Republicans were once a force, but have seen their power disappear over the last 2 decades. Washington Republicans will, quote, go the same direction into the wastebin of history the way Republicans of the 90s have gone. That's exactly what will happen to this crop of national Republicans, Newsom told Politico.
I may not have explained it before, but you know, to cover the news in Sacramento, you have to be an officially recognized member of the Governor's Press Corps. Those members of the Governor's Press Corps never ask hard or difficult or probing questions of the governor. I've witnessed this myself. They are supporting the power grab of the Democrat Party and the power grab of the ballot box in an immoral Tammany Hall way by preventing an assessment of valid votes.
Life Matters continues after this.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Did you know that California has a law in the books that says you need to protect babies born alive in the course of an abortion? But that law is simply ignored. The current legislature and Governor Newsom's administration support all abortions all the time. and they simply do not examine or regulate the practice even though our tax dollars pay for it. We need to shine a light on this cover-up of the abortion industry in our state. Go to CaliforniaProlife.org and click on the Light of Day Project. We need the facts about late-term abortion to be examined and made known. We need the government doing its job to protect lives. We need the light of day on this. Go to CaliforniaProlife.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
This is Radio Free California, broadcasting deep from within occupied California, where the U.S. Constitution has been obliterated by Hegelian, progressive, controlling government forces. The freedom to vote is being restricted, and our freedoms
to stand for the value of individual lives brought into question daily by a dominant media culture committed to the dominant political faction, the party in power. Life Matters is here to discuss the other side of the coin, to discuss the real freedoms that America is built on, the value and significance of individual human lives. Welcome back. We're talking about the integrity of the vote in California, why that now is at even greater risk and will be impossible to monitor if Governor Newsom's dictate that all ballots be sent out by mail and returned by mail or gathered in bushel baskets by hand. This system of voting is anathema to the singular significance of each and every vote. As I said earlier in the program, even in Mexico, to vote in Mexico, even though you can come here from Mexico and not even be an American citizen, in several counties in California, they want you to vote, even though you're not here legally. But in Mexico itself, in order to vote, you must show a photo ID. You must sign an affidavit concurring with that photo ID of who you are and your existing signature. Plus, you must give a fingerprint. They're concerned about the validity of the vote in Mexico because there are corrupt influences, political influences in Mexico. You know about some of them. The cartels own vast swaths of the political system in Mexico. Here in America, we still have, at least in principle, the assertion that every life and every vote has value and has significance. And unless we protect that principle, we can easily lose it. So the California Prolife Council has filed suit in federal court against Gavin Newsom's dictate. We have joined in with Congressman Darrell Issa, who has a separate case with Judicial Watch sponsoring that, to make sure that this not go into effect. Otherwise, our voting freedoms in California will be extremely diminished. It's important for you to understand this. Again, some of your friends may say, well, what's wrong with voting from home? And to be honest, there isn't. But that is not what the governor has dictated. Again, he issued a dictate. It was not passed by the legislature. This is a law that has been created by decree of the governor himself. And so it has not been examined by lawmakers. It is a dictum, a dictate, that this is how we will vote in California. And ask your friends if it's okay to distribute ballots, and that's the real issue. Is the widespread distribution of unaccounted ballots that are blank. They're going to be valid, whoever fills them out, and it's going to be well nigh impossible to truly verify that the proper people are the ones that filled it out. Ask your friend how they would feel about the distribution of ballots if it was done on street corners. What if we had valid ballots distributed by the Secretary of State's office and whatever apparatchiks are committed to it, distributed at street corners in certain neighborhoods? Here's your ballots. Come and get your ballots. And freely distribute ballots. Would that bring into question the nature of our voting system? If you can't see that it will, you don't understand the value and integrity and the responsibility of being able to vote. You don't understand our freedom for every individual to speak their mind through the vote. And once that's lost, your voice is lost. The significance of you challenging what's happening in our government is completely impossible to express once we lose the power of the individual vote. This new systematizing of absentee voting by everyone, because that's essentially what it is, makes it impossible to actively monitor the tsunami of ballots that are being sent. The tsunami of ballots that are flooding the state under this kind of a system. It will be impossible, so we must stop it now. If you'd like to know more, go to the California Prolife website, and we'll have a posting there. If you'd like to help us in all of our efforts, we're still fighting in other ways too. Voting is just one aspect, but the fact is people have been lied to by the government and by the media about what the abortion debate's about. They don't really tell you the truth. And what the truth is they're asserting an idea that one human being can own another. And by owning that other, that's the mother and child, by the way, instead of a responsibility in being a parent, it's an ownership issue. And you can destroy a human life you own. Well, we settled that in the 13th Amendment in the 1860s in dealing with slavery. It is not ethical to consider owning another human being, nor are you allowed ethically to kill a human being you claim to own. And that's what's at stake in abortion. That's what choice means. And unless we examine the humanity of the child and hold accountable the intellectual dishonest ideology that's being peddled by the media, you won't win. You don't understand that this is a battle of ideas, and it is a battle. It is a battle to the death of innocent children. And what's at stake is the integrity of our cultural values, the integrity of our laws, the integrity of where we are as a nation. So it's time to speak up, and we are able to speak up in the ballot box, but not if the integrity of each and every vote has now been lost. So why do we do these things? I'll tell you why. Because life matters.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Prolife Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.